They just want to grab players and drag them to serve their corp. That is not a Spanish community thing. That is every big organization in EVE Online, period, right now. Or, well, in general. Like, that's the problem with promoting these big alliances to being the people that teach these players how to play EVE, is that they are not interested in that player, the individual player, being engaged with EVE or not. They're only interested in them if they're willing to do what they want them to do, which means they're going to teach them to do what they want them to do, and they're going to teach them that that is the only thing to do. Everything else is not worthwhile. And that breaks people if that doesn't necessarily jive with what they want, right? Nullsec is a great place for people that want to be part of an empire like that, right? There are people that want to be a cog in the machine, but there are people that don't want to be that way, but feel that they have to, because that is the way to get power, according to common wisdom. And therefore, they are given a false impression of what their capabilities are or what they can do within the context of EVE. Not because they think that it's impossible to do it, like mechanically not possible, but we get taught that like these things aren't profitable or these things aren't worth it. You know, we're very dismissive of stuff that are outside of our wheelhouse. And I think that in part of that is totally natural bias in the fact that of course you're advocate for what you like. It's why you like it. It's not that you're, you know, necessarily conspiring to make everyone serve you. It's that you sincerely feel like this is the best of EVE, and therefore you teach people that that's the best of EVE. But there is definitely that side of things where organizations are encouraged by the mechanics to encourage certain behaviors. I don't know how much this actually impacts things. Like, for instance, I know Goonswarm does have a lot of groups that like does dabble in the other pieces. But by and large, I find that organizations are more interested in making you into what they need rather than helping you figure out what you want and helping you get to that. Now, a big part of that is because that second one is way harder to do, right? Like somebody comes to me and even if, you know, with my best intentions, if somebody comes to me and says, you know, how can I get into this game or whatever? Like there's only so far I can guide them because I'm not them, right? All I can do is help show them what the options are, which really comes back to this whole why I want the dichotomous key thing, right? Like this chart is cool, but let's be honest. The major message out of this chart is that there's an overwhelming amount of things to do in EVE Online, right? Like, isn't that the one thing you really pull out of this? Like, you might be able to check, like, okay, well, this requires Omega, which I don't actually necessarily agree with that. Incursions are done with alphas, but you know, like, I can look on here and I can see like for ideas or whatever. But do you really think somebody's gonna like actually look at this chart to find what they want to do? And more importantly, if they do, what happens if they stumble upon capital production because that sounds cool, right? Like, shouldn't we have a better guide through the kinds of activities in the game? If you want to get into capital production, maybe you should first learn how T1 production works. Then you can learn into battleship production. See, there's a step in between now. Then you can get into T2 production. Or actually, really, you can go from battleship to capital at that point. But my point is that like we don't teach people the progression of activities. And more importantly, we don't respect the progression of activities. And I think that we rob our players, including ourselves, of the maximum joy within the experience, right? If Need for Speed can show that tweaking builds of your vehicle in between matches can be fun gameplay, then developing and trying out new fits should be able to be good gameplay if it was allowed to be engaged upon, like if people were given the tools to engage with it, right? likewise, you know, there are things that are their speed. Rushing people through missions into things that are beyond missions before they're interested in that doesn't help anyone. Convincing people that if they're not making, you know, 60 million plus an hour, they're not doing it right isn't helping anyone. Convincing new players that that it is worthless to stay alpha and that if they can't go omega right away, that they might as well not even play it, that is detrimental to everyone. You know, this is why I tell people, don't bother, like, you should not go omega until you know why you are, right? Until there's a thing that you want to do, a specific thing that you want to do, hopefully something that'll make you money, that requires you to be omega. When you find that thing and are motivated by it, then you can go omega. Until then, you've got like 6 months of free training under your belt. And during that time, everything is profitable, right? I mean, be like, as long as you use cheaper ships and stuff, which please do. Like, it doesn't matter that any given thing isn't paying you out very well. You don't have a 1.6 billion-isk monkey on your back. Give them the opportunity to experience the game, practice, and get comfortable with